epithelial surface up on the top here with chondroblasts, right, these sort of more flattened types of cells. And then can I see great big chondrocytes sitting in cell nests down here? And in this case, you can see all of them. We can see fibers, we can see chondroblasts, and we can see a perichondrium. So here, if I said name the tissue, be specific, I would expect elastic cartilage, okay?
And it looks like I'm recording you guys, but I'm not. It's the screen.
Now, if I gave you
not in
this, and I said name the tissue, be specific, the first thing you look at is the matrix. No fibers in the matrix, okay? So that tells you we've got large cell nests, no fibers in the matrix. This is going to be what type of cartilage? Hyaline cartilage. Now, I haven't even shown you a perichondrium here, all right? But because in the absence of being able to see any kinds of fibers, this is going to be hyaline cartilage. Again, if we get up to the surface, what we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing this way. Some of these flattened cells. So if I said name the cell, chondroblast. If I said name the space, a lacuna. All right. Then if I go up here and I put an arrow going from here to here, and I said name the layer, perichondrium. All right. Chondroblasts are in lacuna, correct. Right, so chondroblast, you can start seeing the chondroblasts are already sitting in lacunae. If I said then name the cell, what kind of cell is this one? Fibroblasts. Very good. All right. So if I asked you what kinds of growth can this tissue undergo? Both kinds? And I would expect you to name both kinds. All right, interstitial and appositional. Question? Now, chondroblast is the flattened cell sitting in the lacunae just underneath the perichondrium. The chondrocytes are the very large round cells that you see deeply embedded in the center of the cartilage. I beg your pardon? Okay. Yes.
That's different than bone, right? Because osteoblasts aren't in lacunae.
Right, so in bone, osteoblasts are never in lacunae. Correct. They're always up on the surface. Now, if it is magnification, I said name the tissue. Right, connective tissue. All right, it's some kind of connective tissue because of this magnification, you see absolutely no detail. I would never do that in an exam, trust me. But if I went up to this magnification and said name the tissue, now what you can see is lots and lots of these type 1 collagen fibers, and you can see the cells sitting in lacunae. I could also say what type of fibers are present in this connective tissue. Type 1, okay? And I could say, does this connective tissue have a perichondrium? No, okay? Because you can identify that it's fibrocartilage, so you should know it does not have a perichondrium. Can this connective tissue undergo appositional growth? Yes. Appositional, no. No, all right. Would you expect to see isogenous groups in this connective tissue?
Yes.
Yes, because it can undergo interstitial growth. In fact, that's the only growth it can undergo. All right, so you would expect to see isogenous groups. So all of those kinds of questions would be fair game in an exam.
Why are they so hard?
Right, so what that would tell me that this is a fairly quiescent tissue, all right, that it's not actively growing. And if you see it coming from intervertebral discs, perhaps, you probably wouldn't see that many. Yes. Now, all of these questions are fair game for the lab exam because all of these questions are associated with the identification of this tissue. All right? And we've talked about interstitial growth, we've talked about appositional growth, we've talked about intramembranous ossification, we've talked about endochondral ossification, so all of those are fair game for the. And remember, anything in the yellow pages here are going to be fair game, so make sure you can answer all the questions that are in these yellow pages. So if I said, what kind of cartilage do you expect to see at the ends of this organ? Hyaline cartilage, all right.
If you said type 2, is that incorrect?
I said, what kind of tissue? Okay, I didn't say what kind of fiber. And then here, if I put the little arrow pointing across here and I said, name this layer, be specific. So then we'd have to say, it's part of the periosteum, but which part of the periosteum is it?
Fibrogenic layer.
It's the fibrous layer, okay? And then underneath that, name this layer.
Interosteogenic layer.
It's the osteogenic layer of the periosteum, okay? And if I had an arrow going all the way from the top of this arrow to the bottom of this arrow and said name this layer, that would just be periosteum, okay? Now when we come in here and I say name this tissue, be specific,
Tubercle of the
just name the tissue. So it's going to be spongy bone, cancellous bone, right? Or, not lamellar bone, what was the third one? Trabecular bone, thank you. All right. We get up to this region here, and I say name this tissue, be specific. This is going to be woven bone. And the reason we know it's woven bone is, first of all, because you can see lots and lots of osteocytes here. It's up against calcified cartilage, which is a classic feature that we see of woven bone, especially at the endochondral growth plates. Now, if I go down here and said, name this tissue or name the type of bone, what is this? This is lamellar bone, all right? So lamellar bone would be correct here, and if you called it trabecular or cancellous bone, that would also be correct. Right? But I could ask you, is this mature or immature bone?
Mature.
This is mature bone because it's lamellar. Then again, what I could do is at the top of the arrow here, I could say name the space. And that would be the lacuna. Right. Name the cell, osteocyte. Right. If I pointed at this guy and said name the cell, osteoblast. And if I pointed at name this cell, bone lining cell.
I have a question.
Yes.
Aren't bone lining cells technically osteoblasts?
Bone lining cells are osteoblasts that are no longer actively laying down osteoid. Okay, so they are called bone lining cells. Right. An osteoblast, by its very nature, should be actively making matrix, and so then that's when they become these large plump cells.
And that was the osteoid simply?
Now, what it does is the first layer that it lays down is the extracellular matrix, and that is going to be the osteoid. Right? Those are your type 1 collagen, type